Supriyo Das is being invited to explore past, present, and future of Bengali, Kalpabigyan and Kalpabiswa's role in the development, growth and development of science fiction. Supriyo Das. Before that, I invite Honorable Principal, sir. Do you have any comment or dialogue, sir?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
No. To continue, for validity function only, I will express my thoughts. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. See, dear friends, the frontiers of all the fields, whether it is politics, economics, humanities, science, who will forget the Nobel laureates? Bengali literature has an incredible tradition. So is the case with KALPABSWA. So I humbly invite Honorable Supriyo Das to explore the new avenues of Bengali science fiction. Sir, please.
Thank you, Naval
Supriyo Das.
Thank you, Naval sir. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
A very good afternoon to all the dignitaries here. We feel really humbled and privileged to be in such elite company today. And I represent KALPABSWA, the Bengali web magazine, specifically dedicated to the genre of speculative fiction. And here in my presentation, I would like to present some glimpses of all the past glory of Bengali science fiction and what KALPABSWA had done in its short existence since 2016 and our plans for the future. So let me share my screen so that you all can see my presentation. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir, it is visible. Extend it in the presentation mode.
Yeah, I have. So I hope it is in full screen mode now.
Yes, now, good. Please proceed.
Thank you. So when you speak about Bengali science fiction, the beginning the inception happened quite a long time back. If we go by chronology, the first ever accepted example of Bengali science fiction dates way back to the 19th century, where the story Shukra Brahman by Jagadananda Ray, one of the close aides of Gurudev Sri Rabindranath Tagore in his Vishwabharati University in Shantiniketan. This story is accepted as the first example of Bengali science fiction. And along with that, there are many other notable works of that nascent era. One of them were by the famous scientist Sri Jagdish Chandra Bose. His story Palatak Tufan was the first example of science fiction story where real scientific theories were used as a plot pivot to build a story around it. And there have been a lot of other notable works, and some of them which are very much worth mentioning was the story Sultana's Dream by Begum Ruqayya Sakhawat Hussain, which was published in 1998. This is the first Bengali science fiction authored by a woman author and on a feminist theme. And last but not the least, a special mention needs to be made of Sri Hemendra Kumar Ray, who was one of the prolific authors of Bengali science fiction, especially for the Bengali literature for young readers. And he followed the footsteps of the Western masters like Arthur Conan Doyle, H.G. Wells of that era, and they took inspiration from their stories, Indianized, and even expanded their world in the Bengali literature for young readers and children. So some of his notable works are Megduter Marte Agaman and Mainamatir Mayakan. So this was the preliminary era, and this continued for quite a long time, at least for the first 50 years of 20th century. And then the big shot in the arm that Bengali science fiction received came in 1960s. This we probably can designate as the golden era of Bengali science fiction, which all began in the 1960s, spearheaded by the maestros of Bengali literature like Sri Adrish Bardhan, one and only Sri Satyajit Ray, Premendra Mitra, Ranen Ghosh, and all. And they kind of started a first big movement in the world of Bengali science fiction. A lot of activities happened during this time. First and foremost, in 1963, the publication of Ashcharya magazine. It was the first ever Indian magazine, to the best of our knowledge, totally dedicated to the genre of science fiction. And it was spearheaded by Sri Adish Vardhan under the mentorship of other greats like Satyajit Ray and all. In 1966, it was the year of inception of the Science Fiction Cine Club under the mentorship of Sri Satyajit Ray, which gave a big boost to the culture of speculative and science fiction among the Bengali intelligentsia. Then there were a few other notable magazines which came out during this time. Was Biswa science fiction magazine published by Sri Ranen Ghosh, Amit Ananda Das and Sujit Dhar. And in 1975, Adish Vardhan made his second venture to the science fiction after the closure of the Ashcharya magazine. This was the second magazine he published, which was called Fantastic. So the works of this era kind of gave Bengali science fiction a big momentum. And this momentum itself carried Bengali science fiction forward from 1960s till late 70s. Then in 1980s was the next wave of Bengali science fiction that came, spearheaded by the prolific writers like Sri Anish Deb, Sri Siddhartha Ghosh, and Satyajit Ray was still in his creative best. And then Sunil Gang and then stalwarts of Bengali literature, Sri Sunil Gangopadhyay, Sri Shishendu Mukherjee, Leela Majumdar, Narayan Sanal, all of them tried their hands in Bengali science fiction. And this was the first era. I mean, in the late 80s, one of the significant trend we see in the Bengali science fiction is that, I mean, in the beginning that had happened in 1960s, where Bengali science fiction tried to become matured and break its branding as literature for young and children and young people, and try to reach to the mature audience. That thing again came back with through the pens of the greats like Sunil Gangopadhyay, Shishendu Ray, Narayan Sanal, etc. And one notable mention we should all, I mean, we cannot skip is Satyajit Ray's Professor Shanku. It is one of the, I mean, though it is more in the genre of science fantasy than science fiction, but this became the most popular character, scientist character in Bengali literature, and till date, it is a household name among the Bengali young readers. Then beyond 2000, I mean, in the later era, in the advent of 21st century, we saw some young writers emerging like Vigyan Raychaudhuri, Saikat Mukherjee, Debajyoti Bhattacharya, and along with them, Anish Dev was still at his creative best. So they carried forward the flag of Bengali science fiction. But in post 2000, I mean, despite of the few writers who I have mentioned here, trying to keep the, I mean, flag of Bengali science fiction upright, we kind of saw a slump in Bengali science fiction, like in terms of the number of works that were being published, and it was again went back to its shell, where it was again perceived to be predominantly a scientific literature genre targeted for children and young readers. So that is where was the situation when we kind of started or conceived the idea of KALPABSWA. So KALPABSWA came into existence in 2016. So what exactly KALPABSWA is? KALPABSWA.com, it is a free quarterly web magazine in Bengali language dedicated totally to the genre of speculative fiction. So it's a free of magazine. As per as per the best of our knowledge, it is the only web magazine dedicated to science fiction in any Indian language till date. And the purpose of KALPABSWA was to establish science fiction as a and to rather to bring back science fiction to the mainstream genre of the Bengali literature, and to break the shackles and to change the perception that science fiction is not just a literature genre for children and young people. There can be far more serious or mature serious work done, which can be done for the matured audience through science fiction. So when we perceived KALPABSWA, what was our purpose? Our purpose was twofold. One was to provide a easily accessible platform to the readers where they can come in and get the taste of what science fiction is and what science fiction has been in past. So we chose the medium of web instead of a print, because it's easily accessible. With the digital revolution and telecommunication boom, internet became available to everybody, and everybody who has a smartphone these days can simply log into our website and read through. So that was our first, that was our first incentive to choose the web as the medium. And secondly, there are a lot of other limitations of printed media which web does not have. Like if I publish a printed magazine, I am bound by the page numbers. I am restricted with the number of words and the number of stories I can publish, and I need to, my resources become limited. But web gives me a lot of liberty, like in terms of number of writings I can publish in a particular issue, and the restriction on the word limits, and of course regarding experimentation. So any established printed magazine, they would think twice before dedicating its space to an experimental work by any author, just from the economic feasibility perspective, like economic viability perspective, like whether people would accept it, whether the magazine would sell. But since web is not restricted through by the limitation of resource in terms of number of words and number of stories, so there is a scope to provide authors opportunity to experiment, and that is where that is what has been the main aim of KALPABSWA, because we firmly believe that to develop a genre, we need to give authors full liberty to express their mind. Without experimentation, a genre cannot progress. So that has been what our thought been behind KALPABSWA.com, and that is what we have been progressing with so far. So during our course of our existence, we have so far published 19 issues, and we have tried to cover a lot of different themes, some of them established, some of them hitherto unheard or unseen in Bengali literature, and we have published a lot of theme-based issues on different areas of science fiction, like Japanese science fiction, Russian science fiction, climate fiction, a special issue on H.P. Lovecraft, punk literature, detective science fiction, golden age of world science fiction, to name a few. So this has, the images you see are kind of the cover images for our different issues. So that's just for your information. Then along with that, we have also been active in a lot of other activities. Like, for example, we organized along with Jadavpur University the first international seminar in Eastern India on science fiction, commemorating 200th anniversary of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And along with that, we also timed publication of a special issue, as well as a printed book to commemorate this big event in the world the history of world science, world sci-fi. So the covers you see here, this is our web issue cover, special Frankenstein issue, and then this is the printed book which was published on the occasion of this seminar which we organized in 2018. Then another notable work we have done is in 2020, we published an issue entirely, authored, edited, and illustrated by women. Like each story of this issue was written by women authors. A team of women editors edited the issue, and as well as even the illustration artists of that issue are all women. So during our course of work, we have been noted. We have been fortunate that our efforts have not went unnoticed. So some of the recognitions we received for our work was that we have been inducted in the Science Fiction Encyclopedia in 2019 in the section of Indian and Bengali science fiction. And along with that, our CLIFI or climate fiction issue, which we published, had been chosen by eminent professor of Heidelberg University, Professor Hans Harder, who published a research paper on our, the actual paper was on the popular culture in Bengali language of modern era, and KALPABSWA's CLIFI issue did find a special mention in that. And another notable work what we have been partnered in was in a documentary in collaboration with the University of Oslo on the history and the current developments of Bengali science fiction, the Kalpabigyan as it is called. So this is a cover poster. You can see this has been one of our another feather in our cap, which we have been successfully been able to execute. Now, along with there are some other regular activities which also organize, like since the advent of COVID-19 and everybody has gone digital and there's less scope of interacting or organizing these seminars and meeting people in person for discussion forums. So we have been instrumental in organizing panel discussions in web media and bring on reputed and honorable dignitaries who have contributed significantly in the area of Indian science fiction. And this has been a regular activity which we have been doing since past 1 year or so. Now, this is what we have done so far and how far we have reached. And then in 2018, we kind of forayed into the world of printed books. With our success with our web, with the success of our web platform behind us, we forayed into the printed publication where we started. We tried to reach out to the people who are. There are many people in remote areas of Bengal who are not much tech savvy to use internet, and also we thought that there is a scope of printed books as well in the world of KALPABSWA, and more so when we were restoring a lot of works of old masters like Adrish Bardhan, Siddhartha Ghosh, Revanta Goswami and all. We felt that all these wonderful works of past which are not available and forgotten right now needs to be republished and brought back to the reader base so that they can also realize like what kind of gems were created in the past. And that has been our inspiration, and we forayed into the publication business, and so far we have been able to publish more than 35 titles under the brand of KALPABSWA Publications and its imprint Montage. Now, this is what our journey has been so far. Now the road ahead, there are of course miles to go and a lot to achieve. We have just scratched the surface as per our perception. So our next plan, which I also felt very excited, since this morning, hearing a lot of people speaking about it, is that a lot of work is being done in the world of science fiction in past also has been done, and at present also there are a lot of work that is being done in different Indian languages, but there is no common platform where this can be looked at, or this is accessible, primarily because of the language barrier. Like, as you know, Mr. Shinoy was also pointing it out that there has been very few good translations of the work that has been done in the Kannada science fiction. So we also felt the same way for Bengali as well. So to be honest, apart from some works of great Sri Satyajit Ray or Professor Shanku, not many of the great works of Bengali science fiction has really been translated in English, so that the all India audience or reader base as well as the international reader base can get a taste of what Bengali science fiction is all about. So we, through our KALPABSWA webmac platform, would try to bridge that. So we are planning to add a English section to our website, which would be where we intend to publish English translations of all the selected works of science fiction which has been done in all the Indian languages, including Bengali, and not just Bengali, but rather we target all the Indian languages where we intend to translate the great works of those languages in the world, in the area of science fiction, and create a body of work and provide provide those works some exposure to the all India as well as the international audience. So that is what we have in store for future. So that is all from my end. So a big thanks again to all of you.
Thank you, Honorable Supriyo Das sir, for exploring the incredible past, the critical present, and the vision of the millennium and future of Bengali Kalpabigyan and Kalpabiswa's role in the growth and development of Indian science fiction.
Sir, we are I have a word. Shall I be allowed to speak a word here?
Yes,
sir, please,
yes, please.
First of all, I would like to say happy birthday to Deep Ghosh. Oh. This is the birthday of Deep Ghosh, the brain behind this KALPABSWA and KALPABIGWAN, I suppose. So this is, you can convey it to him also. Second point is, I used to visit Calcutta or Kolkata, not for any other attraction, but for the Kolkata book fair, which is very popular. And you had a stall this time, and you had a roaring business, and you had a number of buyers. Can you throw light upon that in a sentence or two, how you could do it? Because publication is easy, selling is difficult for science fiction. That's why my question to you, sir, Supriyo Das, sir.
Yes, sure, sir.
Sir, please stop your screen sharing and response, please.
Yes, sure. So when we started our publication, one of our biggest helping hand has been late Sri Ranen Ghosh. We are greatly indebted to that departed great soul. And without his support, we would not be here and we would not be what we have become today. So when we talk about book fair, the first ever, printed publication from KALPABSWA was under the banner of his publication, which is called Pratishruti Publications. So the way back in 2016, he was the first person who inspired us, saying that you are doing such a great work in the web. Why don't you take it beyond web and make it available to the nooks and corners of Bengal, where people are not that tech savvy but still are very much interested, and you will find a great audience there. So he took the burden, saying that I would publish on your behalf and I would take your work to every corner of Bengal, to the district book fairs and everywhere. So it is actually through his inspiration that we first found courage to move into the area of publication, and then slowly transferred. And the stall you saw, sir, in the Calcutta Book Fair, where you saw KALPABSWA books, is actually the stall of Pratishruti Publication, belonging to late Sri Ranin Ghosh's organization. So he, supported us by giving us space in his stall, because you understand, in such a big book fair, it is very difficult for a newly founded or 1-year-old publication house like us to get a stall, because the stalls are allocated through lottery system, and of course preference is given to the already established publishers. So without his support, it would not have been possible. And of course, it would be a great injustice to not mention the great effort which has been put by our whole team. Like KALPABSWA, behind the scene, you might not realize, is a team effort. There are a lot of people who are involved in it, and there have been a lot of sweat and midnight oils burnt behind the whole thing you see here, like the publishing of books, setting up the stall, and then managing the stall during the whole book fair. That would not have been possible without our whole team stepping forward.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. A team wins the tournament, and it is also our team. The very result of the said conference is a teamwork. So by wishing a happy birthday to the young and dynamic scholar, none other than Deep Ghosh, we humbly invite Honorable Deep Ghosh, the co-organizer in the form of Bengali science fiction magazine KALPABSWA, Kolkata, West Bengal, precisely introduce the role of KALPABSWA. Coincidentally, Honorable Deep Ghosh sir is very much here. Sir, please have a happy and healthy birthday to you on behalf of all the delegates and science fiction community. Now the request ball is in your court. Honorable Deep Ghosh sir, please.
Thank you everyone. Thank you for your wish. Thank you Dr. Nable and Dr. Srihanawari. Honorable dignitaries, professor, researcher, scholar and writers. I am honored to be part of this 20th annual online interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary national conference. I would like to congratulate Professor Tejankar and Dr. Nable of Devgari College and conference members and technical team, Aurangabad, Maharashtra, for successfully organizing such a wonderful conference in their college. Dr. Sri Narahari and his colleagues in Indian Association for Science Fiction Studies are very helpful, and they are in a pivotal role in this conference. I would also like to congratulate Dr. Mishra and Indian Science Fiction Writers Association for their involvement and their guidance. And I would also like to thank Marathi Vigyan Parishad, Mumbai, and Malayalam Science Fiction Writers Association, Kerala, for their involvement in the conference. So I was one of the editor and founder of KALPABSWA webzine and KALPABSWA publication. So already Supriyo, one of my co-editors, he has already discussed about KALPABSWA and our efforts. So I am not going to repeat that. But what I want to say that KALPABSWA actually, what I feel that it has already shows that how we can popularize a niche genre like science fiction towards wider audience. Because when we started working with KALPABSWA, started working with science fiction in Bengali literature, it was a kind of a declining phase for Kalpabigyan or science fiction. People are not really writing or reading science fiction as a serious literature. So from there, we started popularizing it over Facebook, over social media, and we started KALPABSWA as a free web magazine. And after that, when there is a correct scenario or a market already grown for mature science fiction, good science fiction, for mature readers. Then we moved with our KALPABSWA publication. So this can be a model for other organizations or other states who wants to popularize science fiction in their own language. So I would always request everyone, other organizations and other scholars or professors or science fiction fans to come up, and we are always there for helping them if they want to make a new science fiction magazine or some publication or some translation effort. We are already started some collaborating work with different organizations. We are asking for everyone to come forward, and as Dr. Balforke has already said, that the only way to popularize science fiction more is we need to collaborate between ourselves, among ourselves, and we need to co-translate from one language to another, other languages. So that's the only way to popularize science fiction. So again, I'm saying that let us come and start a new revolution for Indian science fiction for the coming days. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Deep Ghosh, sir. What is the occasion and the innovation? Really, we students are proud of you for the initiative for bridging the gap by maintaining unity in the variety, and through literature, we have a very love bond, lasting, organized, valuable bond. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your cooperation, your active participation, and your initiative. Deep Ghosh, sir, we have a perpetual proud of you and with a sense of gratitude and reverence. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.